On today's show, our full review of Codemasters Formula 1 2010.
Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Jessica Lopez.
And I'm Sean Cole.
And this is episode 93, where today we'll be putting Formula 1 2010 by Codemasters on the Shabami.
Yeah, finally. Well, maybe not finally. We told you we were going to take our time, test it all the way through. You guys mentioned it for GT5. Same thing. It takes time to be as detailed as we want to go, and we finally finished.
And not only that, since it's been released in September, they've also put out a couple patches, so we had to wait until the game was entirely ready for us to review.
Yeah, so it took us and them coming together for this day.
And it is finally here.
But before we get to that, we're going to get back to your piece again, the pit stop, little fast action news. So why don't you hit us with it?
Here it is.
The Pit Stop with Jessica Lopez, brought to you by iRacing.com.
Welcome to the Pit Stop. First up in iRacing news, the next two tracks to be released both come from Japan, and they are Okayama and Suzuka, which is a favorite among many and also included in almost every single racing title that's out there. So be looking forward to those, and great place to drive the newly released FW31. And speaking of cars, iRacing is coming out with the high-powered sprint car for all you oval racers, and that will be their next vehicle to be released. In other iRacing news, Gregor Hutu, who is probably the best sim racer in the world and very well known in the community, has been given a chance to drive a real car at a real track by iRacing. They have the full complete story at their website, iracingtv.com. It's about a 20-minute show and a must-watch for every sim racer. Make sure you check it out. In other news, the Indu Racers team has released their highly anticipated Service Pack 1, known as SP1, for their mod for R Factor, and it includes many improvements to the mod. In addition, 6 new 3D models, including the Peugeot 908, the Audi R10 diesel sports cars, the Acura ARX01, and the Porsche RS Spyder Evo LMP2 Challengers, the Saleen S7R, and the Ferrari F430. In addition, there are mini skins included from past sports car racing seasons. Head on over to virtualr.net where you can find many links to download that SP1 mod. Next up, from Kunos Simulazioni, Netcar Pro has been releasing videos all over the net showing their upcoming track and car, and it's a hill climb track called the Trento Bondone from Italy, and the car is the Osella P821 Honda prototype. The videos show all of the weather dynamics you can expect in Netcar Pro, including puddles, raindrops, wet roads, etc. That's it for the pit stop today, which has been brought to you by iRacing.com. They have holiday specials for new members. Buy 1 month, get 2 months free. Head on over to the banner at our website or iRacing.com to take advantage of these holiday specials. That's it for the pit stop, and you've been fueled. Time for our top simulation cars of all time segment, and today we'll be putting one car from iRacing and one from F1 2010.
Yeah, 2 Formula 1 cars, the FW31 from iRacing, which we've had a lot of people ask for this car. I'm dying to see this one hit the list, and then obviously the Formula 1 car from Codemasters. So should be a good version of Top Sim Car.
We're going to see if they make it onto the list, which I'm sure that they will, but let's find out here at Top Sim Cars.
Well, from now on, we're only going to add cars to the Top Sim Cars when we have a damn good reason, and today we have a damn good reason.
2 damn good reasons. Not only are we putting one from F1 2010 on the list, or we're going to see if it makes the list, but we've had a lot of requests for the Williams FW31 from iRacing to be added to the list, or attempted to be added to the list.
That's right. So we have a little pseudo shootout. Well, not really a shootout, but
little F1 kind of shootout to add to the many F1 cars we already have on the Top Sim Car list. We got right. Actually, we should put it out right now. No more F1 cars on the Top Sim Car list. We already have enough. unless some new badass F1 car comes out. But anyway.
But for now, we have these two, and since it is the Codemaster show today, why don't we start off with that one?
Sounds good.
I guess it's not really one, though.
We kind of just picked any model from F1 2010 because they're so everyone's awesome. Some of the cockpits, I guess, have the wrong wheel, but we honestly wouldn't know the difference.
I love Formula One, but I don't know that much.
We don't know. And honestly, when I'm trying to go 200 miles an hour in an F1 car, the last thing I'm looking at is the wheel. So they all look awesome. So we just kind of grouped them all together. It's just going to be an F1 2010 car.
Yeah, you pick your favorite.
I was just going to say, pick your favorite. Ferrari, Williams, Renault, I mean, whatever you want, that's what your favorite is. But we just kind of grouped them all together into an F1 2010 top sim car.
There you go. So how about some scores?
Let's read them off here. Starting with physics, 16. Sounds, 13 1/4. Models, 9 3/4. Cockpit, 9 1/4. Fun factor, 9. Immersive, 9. Force feedback realism, 7 3/4. Damage, 3 3/4. Skins, 3 3/4. Default set, 5. Grand total, 86 1/2.
Wow, wow. Very nice. I mean, that's not top scores, but those are great scores. I mean, it's one of my favorite cars in all of sim racing.
Yeah, and I agree. Codemasters did an awesome job with this. Physics, definitely a little on the low side. We're going to talk about it again in the Shabami, but you know, probably one of the toughest physics on the console. Pretty much impossible to drive with a gamepad when you have all aids off.
Yeah.
You know, running with a manual shifter, the whole 9 yards. It is near impossible to drive with a gamepad. I did try it to be, just to see. But with a wheel and pedal set, it's pretty realistic. 16 out of 20 is a pretty decent score.
Yeah, and I definitely was using more the PC favoritism on that one there.
Yeah, great sound effects. Models are just, I gave them 10. Sean gave it a 9.5. I mean, the models are just pretty much second to none. I mean, they're incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about different methods of doing it. I don't know what method they use to get it, but they are just, I mean, they're perfect. I mean, or near perfect.
Force feedback, 7 3/4, a little weak. Damage, I gave it a 4. Sean gave it a 3.5. I think that was a good compromise. 3 3/4.
Yeah.
So again, overall 86 1/2, and pretty good score.
Yeah, not bad at all. And that takes us to the Williams, the Toyota powered RVX 09 2.4 liter.
Wow, that's pretty technical there, dude.
Well, you gotta love these cars.
It's
18,000 RPM.
It needs to be stated like that because they are so technical.
740 horsepower, 1,334 pounds. I mean, this is a lot of car.
It is a lot of car, and probably one of the most anticipated, and I would imagine iRacing had a spike in memberships when this thing came out.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that everyone was waiting for. You gotta have a Formula One car to be legit.
Especially overseas, a lot of people were saying that iRacing's heavy on American content, and it is. In some of their earlier interviews, they had mentioned it was just easier to get that content because they are a U.S.-based company. But
makes sense.
Adding Spa, lots more international.
Zandvoort.
Yeah, Zandvoort, lots more international tracks coming. So great to see Formula One car.
Yeah. So how did it score?
Well, let's see. Physics, 18 3/4. Sounds, 12 1/2. Models, 9 1/4. Cockpit, 9. Fun factor, 8 3/4. Immersive, 8 3/4. Force feedback realism, 9. Damage, 3 1/2. Skins, 3 1/4. Default set, 4 3/4. Total, 87 1/2.
All right. So these two came pretty close.
Within a point.
Yeah. I mean, they certainly took different ways about getting to those very similar scores, though.
And I'm sure there's going to be some disappointed iRacers out there saying, why isn't this car at the top of the list? It is a great sim car, no doubt. I mean, I scored at 19 in physics, Sean 18 1/2. Sounds is where it struggled.
Yep.
Exterior, like if you're got a track cam, you're sitting trackside, watching replays, it sounds awesome.
That exterior sound, sure.
But interior, it just doesn't.
Just humming.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound right to me.
And you compare that to like the V8 supercar, which does have a good throaty rumble to it.
Yeah, and we're not expecting a throaty rumble out of an F1 car, but it just doesn't have that. It's just not the same sound that I was expecting. Overall, though, it scored really well in all the other categories. Damage, 3.5, pretty good score. Skins, it kind of suffered because you're only able to paint it just a generic color, and you get this Williams paint scheme that you can choose from. You can paint your own car and import, but you can't do, you know, just the cool.
No, it's just solid green.
Yeah, can't do the paints, you know, the cool paint schemes that you can do in iRacing. Default set was great too. I gave it a 5. Sean 4.5.
Yeah.
So
get in and run it, you're going to be pretty good. And I mean, driving a Formula 1 car is a whole different ballpark, though.
Yeah, for me, fun factor was a little low, 8.5, which wasn't low, but it was fun to drive. A little on the easy side, I'd say. Setup, man, you need to be a friggin' engineer because there is like 200 different ways to, 200 different selections or
things I've never even heard of.
Yeah, just way out there. So. All right, that's going to do it for top simulation cars of all time, F1 style.
And both cars did pretty well. Both made the list, and both great cars.
Definitely, and like we said, no more F1 cars for the list. Even though they're great, we need a little more variety.
Definitely.
It's going to be the top 50 F1 cars of all time.
Or open wheelers, at least.
So that's going to do it. We'll see you for the next one.
So now we have F1 2010 by Codemasters. Time to put it on the shabami. Before we do, we have to see which particular version we want to shabami.
Yeah, you got 3 different. You got the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the PC. We actually heard that they're not all a port, that they actually had 3 teams working on each one, so they're not the same game. And first step, like you said, picking the best one.
Exactly. So Sean, together with Darren, is going to take a look at all 3 versions, and after that, they'll pick one, and we'll put that on the shabami. So here they are, testing them out.
All right, here it is. Time for the F1 2010 shabami, pros, cons.
Everything you need to know.
The whole 9 yards. The full shabami.
There you go.
And before we get to that, we're going to tell you which version we picked.
And why.
Exactly. PC, PS3, or Xbox 360. Also, we were going to talk about all the different wheels, but being that there's 3 different versions or 3 different systems.
And so many different wheels.
And we actually went over the PS3 to an extent, but now all the Fanatic wheels are compatible. We'll talk about that in a second. We're going to have 3 shorts, one for the PC, one for the PS3, and one for the Xbox 360 on how to set up your wheel for F1 2010 and which wheels are the best. Like a buyer's guide like we talked about for Gran Turismo 5.
Exactly. And that way you just need to watch the one that applies to you instead of, and then we can go in great detail.
Exactly. So first things first, we're going to talk about which system we shabamied. We played all 3.
Yeah.
But we're going to rate it based on which one we felt was the best.
Yeah. And they all look the same. I mean, you look at the cover, you wouldn't know. I mean, they're all identical, the same title. I mean,
you're living the life in all 3. Speaking of which, we're not going to go through all that. Watch our PS3 review if you want to see the full review. We did all that in part 1, I guess you could say, of our review. But this is now post-patch. We wanted to wait for the patch to come out, which was significant.
The list just went on and on and on of the items fixed.
And once we talk about a few of those, then we'll tell you which one we shabamied. But some of the improvements included shadowing improvements, AI improvements. There was the tire puncture issue that we kept coming across.
The game killer one. I mean, that's a huge one.
They had DirectX 11 support on the PC, debug support, Crossfire SLI support, Ifinity, Leo Bodner SLI Pro Steering Wheel Controller on the PC. So,
making good on the promise to support just wheel after wheel, so good for them.
And making good on their promise to come back, out with a patch not that long after. It was about a month or so after release. After all that, best version was definitely the PC.
DirectX 11 support, you named it.
Yep, triple screens was awesome. The fact that you can map different controls, and then the graphics were just so much more crisp on the PC versus the Xbox and the PS3.
Yeah, very, very distinct difference. I mean, just every add-on was there and it never went away. Whereas the others, it seemed like there was some adjusting detail going on that kind of prevented it from all of its glory, which would be the PC version.
Exactly. Quick fix for you on the PC version. couple times we had a problem where I was doing some different adjustments, came back, and all of a sudden it was in windowed mode. And there's no way to check that on or off like you could like in Dirt 2. If you go to My Documents and then under Games, I believe, F1 2010, we'll show it to you on the screen here. There's a config file, a hardware config file, and within it, there's a line that says windowed. If you go to false, it'll go off. If you go to true, for some reason it switches to that. So find that line, change it to true or false, depending on what you want, and that'll fix that.
And anybody who has trouble logging into Windows Live might have Alt-tabbed out, got into that Windows mode, so they're going to need to know that.
Yep. So now, console of the two, which one was the best? My preference was the Xbox 360, mainly because the graphics just seemed closer to that DX11 on the PC.
I agree, with exception of the fact that it is a little more restrictive on the wheels. So the PS3 left a little more open, but the quality of the game was much better than the Xbox, I felt.
Yeah, and it wasn't. There was a little bit of a stutter, it seemed, on the PS3. Still a great game, still very playable, but I definitely preferred the Xbox 360, and the PC was, in my opinion, definitely a notch above both.
I almost wish they had called that like F1 2010 PC edition, because it almost was. Well, it played like a different game for me. Everything about the graphics, but also the way it worked with the wheels was more immersive as well. So, I mean, we're going to get to that later, I guess.
And then on top of that, you can mod it. And if you go to virtualr.net, you can find a nice list of mods. Click on their F1 2010 section. And we're specifically using a field of view mod that Chad Smith had put together, and it gives you 30, 40, 50, 60 degrees on the field of view. And in my opinion, makes a big difference, you know, putting you closer to those front tires. It just adds to the immersiveness on the PC.
Well, and you mentioned also in triples, it puts you more into that whole cockpit in triples, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And with that, that wraps up this part of the review and why we picked the PC version. Again, it comes at a price though. I mean, the PC, you're looking at, you know, $1,000 plus to get that, you know, and with triples, even more.
Big time.
So it comes at a price. Not saying that those other two versions aren't great. I would say just be knocked down on graphics a half a point, and we'll get to that in the Shabami here in a second.
There you go.
All right, so the PC version looks like it's made its way to the Shabami.
It is the winner, the clear-cut winner. It'll let you use whatever wheel and pedal you want, so easy.
No-brainer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So here we go, Formula One 2010 by Codemasters on the Shabami.
So obviously we've covered a lot about this in our preview. You heard about the wheel settings and everything, but now it really comes down to the scores and our real thoughts about it. And again, this is mainly for the PC version. I think a little of it carried over from everywhere.
A lot carried over for me. I mean, the games were very similar, but having the setups that we have, we're definitely going to go with the PC. It was just, again, very immersive, you know, with the triple screens and set up right.
All right, so how about if I do the scores and then we'll get to how we feel about it.
Sounds good.
All right, physics, 12.25 out of 15. Graphics, 9.5 out of 10. Sound, 9 out of 10. Tracks, 9 out of 10. Vehicles, 9.75 out of 10. Fun factor, 9 out of 10. Force feedback, 7.75 out of 10. AI, 4 out of 5. Multiplayer, 4 out of 5. Damage, 3.25 out of 5. Presentation, 5 out of 5. And cost, 5 out of 5. Giving it a total score of 87.5.
Which is pretty good. I mean, that's definitely right up there on the Shabami scale. We need to actually redo a couple scores. I think Forza was a little high.
Yeah.
Now going back, it's not going to take much of a hit in comparison, but
every game kind of affects other games, so it's important that we do reevaluate some of those early ones.
And we said we were going to go back to that one. But yeah, great score. What was it on the Sim Index, by the way?
64.5, which is very good there as well.
Yep.
And this is something that we needed to get on our new website anyway, a whole thing with all of our scores, so maybe we can update it, get it on there, and then everyone can kind of compare how all Sims rank.
Exactly, and yeah, and that's a good way to make a comparison. If people are always asking how they all rank up on the Shabami, and we haven't really made a shabammy chart, so we got to do it like like the top sim car list.
And especially like the sim index, which kind of gets swept under a little bit. So it'll be nice to see how they all rank there.
So some of the things I wanted to talk about, let's go to multiplayer really quick. I had checked like the leaderboard numbers and just give you an idea how many people play each version. PC, 31,800 was the leaderboard. And then both the PS3 and the Xbox 360 had over 120,000 people that had logged laps or whatever on that leaderboard. So definitely a big...
It's like 4 times more people on each platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez. And we like the PC the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Along with 31,000.
Yep. For some of you that wonder what it's like to race a sim at the higher levels, if you don't have a wheel for your console and you've considered, getting into this, F1 2010 is definitely a good start. Lots of aids you can turn off or on, and turning them all off, like I mentioned earlier, with a gamepad it's near impossible to drive. With a wheel, it's awesome, and it's close to a pretty high-end sim experience.
It drives just like a sim, so the way it feels, the way it plays is so sim-like, and that's one of the great things about it though, is that varying degree of difficulty, all the way from beginner to very difficult.
Yeah, one complaint though, on the higher level, it still seems to have like a built-in aid, or certain situations, like in the rain, maybe it's a little grippier than it should be.
Yeah.
But overall, great experience. I highly recommend it. Definitely a buy, not a rent.
Absolutely. And for Formula One fans, it's probably the best Formula One game that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, you mentioned game. Again, this is probably the most sim-like experience. This doesn't have trophy challenges, nothing like that. This is a true F1 experience.
Yeah.
There's no working your way up the ranks. It's straight to F1. You can work your way up the ranks within F1, starting a lower car within the 7-year season, but it's tough.
Yeah, and for me, it's that experience. I mean, they use the word living their life, and they meant a lot of things. But for me, when you fire up the engines on the starting line and you've got the vapor trails coming off of the other cars, or you're in the rain and you got, I mean, there are just things about this that is more than a game. It's that living the life. It's feeling like you're really a Formula One driver when you're sitting in the cockpit.
Yeah, like speaking of the rain, you're in that rooster tail for too long and all of a sudden you go blind. I mean, it's just complete blurred because you're so close to that rooster tail and it's covering your visor, and it's a really cool effect.
And I have to hit the brakes because I'm scared that I'm going to hit something. I can't see anything.
Yep. I'm just going to go over a couple bullet points I have, and then I'll be done with this and send you guys on your way. Again, I said most sim-like game on the console. Great force feedback, decent physics. Graphics are just incredible across the board. Again, a con for me does have that built-in aid. Full hard mode, again, impossible without a wheel. I think this is a great first run for Codemasters at an F1 title.
Oh, they did. They should pat themselves on the back for their first efforts.
And I would think Formula One, would be pretty happy with their first efforts. I think
Definitely.
I think they made Formula One look really good.
Definitely. A few things for me, again, I just hit upon it though, but that whole environment, that living the life, the career mode, this is a great representation of giving you everything you need beyond just the driving, and then the driving is very good.
Great result, mate. That's our first points on the board.
The graphics, to me, they're not that photorealism, but this is some of the best playing graphics. I mean, when you're driving, at those speeds you don't have time to look around, but if you're watching somebody else driving and you're looking at the scenery and the speed blur, there are things about it that to me are some of the best things that all games could take away from this one in particular.
Especially like Monaco.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah. The other thing for the PC version, again, was the way the wheel locked in, and this is part of the immersive for me too. And just getting that one-to-one feeling where the driving is what I expect it to be, and more so on the PC. So I mean, that's something else on the plus for me. And
I guess I can add a couple things. The adjustability of the wheels, not just on the PC, the most adjustable racing title on the console.
Yeah.
Lots of sliders for saturation, linearity, You can map different things. Just really well done on that end. You know, taking it from dirt to.
Yep.
Another thing I wanted to add, the rig that we did the majority of the testing with was we used the game pod for the most part, but on the PC we used either a Logitech or a Fanatec wheel. Club Sport pedals were just incredible.
Yeah.
And then we ran the iFinity triple screens.
Perfect setup to test on.
Yep.
The other thing I want to say, last thing I got to say that's great about this game is when you're doing the long race weekend, the rules and using the tire changing and the amount of strategy that you actually have to use while racing. You can't just fire it up. You're going to have plans when you go into the race.
Yeah, and practice. You can't just show up and, you know, an experienced sim racer may be able to just hop in if they know the tracks, but if you don't know the tracks, I was running somewhere and I was just lost. I had never been there and it took me a while. You actually sat down, you're like, dude, I'm doing horrible here. I'm like, oh, so was I. I've never been there. So great job, Codemasters.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. Looking forward to 2011 already.
Me too.
Seeing what they're going to do. Hopefully, I want to see a full sim mode. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it. F1 2010 for the PC, Xbox 360, and PS3. Hope you enjoyed our review.
We have now reached the end of the show, and we hope that you guys have enjoyed our coverage of Formula One 2010. Before we leave, we stopped to pick a winner from the SSCA race that was a couple weeks back.
Yeah, the Fanatec Carrera Cup.
That took place back on November 26th. The event took place in Indianapolis on the GP bike course and would be run using either the Mazda MX-5s or the Pontiac Solstices of iRacing. In qualifying, Kurt Krum would set the fastest lap and then start the race from the pole with a lap time of just a hair over 2 minutes. 36 drivers started the race and Kurt Krum jumped out to an early lead. He would maintain that lead for 17 laps to eventually drop to second place. The race would see two other leaders, Chris Damron, who would lead a couple of laps, but it was Blake Townend that would end up leading 38 laps and bringing home the win after over 2 hours in the driver's seat. The big prize for the event was a Fanatec Carrera wheel, and all the drivers completing the race on the lead lap would be eligible for that prize. Those drivers are Blake Townend, Kurt Krum, Len O'Kell, Chris Damron Jr., Dave Galink, Jonathan Church, Andy Kirschtort, John Kusland, and Valerio Chieti.
So
I'm reaching into the bowl of correctiveness here, as you can see.
I'll hold it. You pick
All
one.
right, let's see who the lucky winner is. Let me just kind of move them around so I can give everyone a fair shot.
All of these guys at the end of the race had finished on the lead lap, which is amazing. I mean, endurance racing is so brutal, and these guys are all winners.
So congratulations to all being winners, but the actual winner of the wheel goes to Kurt Krum from the Atlantic Division, who finished in second, actually.
All right. Nice work.
So congratulations, Kurt. Be in touch with us, or we'll be in touch with you.
Get him that wheel.
And make sure you visit our website, InsideSimRacing.tv. We've done a lot of recent changes.
Big changes. I mean, it's not even the same website. Our old site, in my opinion, just had to go. So it's gone. The new one's there. A lot of new things are coming online, so not everything's available, but you're going to find it a lot easier to find what you're looking for. You got a search engine up at the top, so type in anything and you're
A lot
gonna
of
find
new
it.
changes. It's actually wonderful, and whatever you're looking for is very easy to find. Make sure you go on over there and check it out and tell us your thoughts. Give us your comments on YouTube. Participate in our forum, etc.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap it up. I'm Jessica Lopez.
Sean Cole.
Checker flag is out, and so are we. Promotional consideration provided by iRacing.com, the ultimate place to race online. And GamePod, the choice of champions. Go to gamepod.co.uk.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
2, 1.
We'll go on to the ship. Thrustmaster. She's heavy. Okay. Time now.